It sounds like a death sentence. In the heart of an Arctic winter, with temperatures so brutal that exposed skin dies in minutes, your commanding officer gives the unthinkable order, burn your only shelter. But this wasn't madness. This was one of the most counterintuitive and brilliant survival tricks ever deployed in warfare, a forgotten tactic that didn't just keep soldiers warm. It rewrote the rules of surviving the cold. Welcome to Legacy of Survival. Today we're diving into a piece of military ingenuity so clever it feels like a loophole in the laws of nature. We're not talking about high-tech gear or modern materials. This is about sheer, raw understanding of physics and heat, leveraged in the most desperate circumstances imaginable. This is the story of the fire and ice shelter, a method born from necessity and perfected in the crucible of the Winter War between Finland and the Soviet Union. A war fought in conditions that would make most modern equipment quit. And at the centre of it all was a simple, audacious idea. To avoid freezing to death, you sometimes have to set your world on fire. Forget the opposing army for a moment. The true enemy, the one that claimed more limbs and lives than bullets ever could, was the cold. We're talking about the Finnish winter of 1939 to 1940, where temperatures routinely plunged to -40 degrees Celsius and Fahrenheit, where they mercifully meet. In that kind of cold, frostbite isn't a risk, it's an inevitability. Metal sears flesh, breath crystallizes in the air, standard fieldcraft fails. Digging a snow cave takes calories and time you don't have. A tent is just a thin cloth coffin, trapping your body's moisture and turning it into ice. Soldiers needed heat, real heat, but a fire in the open is pathetic, its warmth stolen instantly by the wind and infinite darkness. They needed to trap that heat, to weaponize it, and that's where the trick comes in. The solution wasn't a single object, but a system. Finnish soldiers, many of them hunters and outdoorsmen by trade, mastered it. First, they'd build a simple lean-to shelter. This wasn't a cabin. It was a slanted roof of evergreen boughs propped up against a fallen log or a low rock face. It was crude, designed for one thing, to reflect radiant heat. The genius wasn't the lean-to itself. It was what they did in front of it. They'd build a large, long-lasting fire, not directly under the shelter but about 3 to 4 feet in front of its open side. Then they'd construct a heat reflector. This could be a wall of green logs stacked vertically, a pile of stones, or even a packed snow wall. This reflector sat between the fire and the lean-to. Here's where the magic happens, and it's pure, beautiful physics. A fire gives off heat in two main ways, through the hot air that rises, convection, and through infrared radiation that travels in straight lines, that's radiation. In the open, that radiant heat just zips off into space, totally useless. But the reflector changes everything. It catches that radiant energy and bounces it, just like a mirror bounces light, right into the shelter and onto the bodies of the soldiers. The slanted roof of the lean-to then reflects it back down. Suddenly, you're not just sitting by a fire anymore. You're inside an oven of radiant energy. The air temperature might still be brutally cold, but your body is being directly targeted by life-giving warmth. It creates a survivable microclimate in a universe of frost. You are, quite literally, baking in your own handmade sauna, while the world around you is frozen solid. But the tactic has one more legendary layer. Remember that initial hook? The order to burn your shelter. This was the contingency, the move for when you were on the run, when the enemy was closing in, or when the cold was actively winning. As dawn broke or a retreat was ordered, soldiers would douse their bedding, grab their gear, and then deliberately set their evergreen lean-to on fire. Why? Because for a glorious, intense few minutes, that entire structure would become one massive, roaring reflector. It would throw out a final colossal wave of radiant heat, thawing frozen boots, warming stiff bodies, and cooking rations in seconds. It was a controlled sacrifice. They traded a shelter that was easy to rebuild for a critical burst of life-saving energy. They burned their house to warm their souls, knowing that in these forests a new one could be built in an hour. It was the ultimate lesson in resource prioritization. Survival now over comfort later. This trick, this entire system, was a brutal kind of elegance. It required no special tools, just knowledge. It turned soldiers from passive victims of the cold into active engineers of their own climate. The Finnish troops, outnumbered and outgunned, used mastery of this environment as a force multiplier. While Soviet troops froze in their tents, Finnish soldiers were recovering, warm and ready. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the most advanced technology is, honestly, just an idea. This method wasn't invented in a lab. It was refined through centuries of Arctic living and desperate wartime innovation. So, the next time you feel a chill, think about that lesson from the frozen forests. Warmth isn't just about temperature. It's about direction. It's about reflection. It's about understanding how energy moves and harnessing it directly. It's a forgotten slice of genius from a time when survival relied on wit, not just gear. If you're fascinated by these kinds of stories, where history meets raw, practical ingenuity, you're in the right place. This is exactly what we dig for here at Legacy of Survival. We resurrect these forgotten skills so they're not lost to time. If you want more deep dives into the tactics that shaped history and saved lives, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support helps us keep unearthing these incredible stories. Let us know in the comments what other survival mysteries from history you'd like us to explore. Thanks for watching, and remember, the greatest survival tool is always the human mind.